You ever walk into a room, and without saying a word, someone just pulls all the attention, not because of their looks, not because of fame or status, but because of something else, something deeper, something magnetic you can't fake? Let me be clear, attractiveness is not about appearance, it's about presence, and the truth is, you can build that presence. You can train it, own it, live it, if you're ready to build the right habits that separate the invisible from the unforgettable. Let's start with the first, confidence that doesn't scream, it whispers. It's not the loudest voice in the room, it's the calmest one, the one that doesn't need validation, doesn't need to boast because it already knows its worth. And you earn that kind of confidence by doing hard things. You become magnetic by walking through discomfort and standing tall anyway. The way you walk, the way you sit, the way you breathe, they all speak before your mouth ever opens. People sense when you're grounded in who you are. That's not arrogance, that's earned energy, and it attracts without even trying. Second, emotional intelligence. You want to be attractive, learn to read a room. Learn to read a face, know when to speak, when to listen, when to walk away. When someone tells you their story, don't just wait your turn to talk. Actually listen. Make people feel seen, because nothing captivates faster than the feeling of being understood. People don't remember the words, they remember how you made them feel, and if you can give them calm in chaos, safety in vulnerability, clarity in confusion, you become unforgettable. Now let's talk discipline. You think it's sexy to be reckless. Think again. Discipline is power. Discipline means you're not run by impulse. You're not at the mercy of mood. You've got structure, self-control, and standards. You do what's right even when no one's watching. That kind of inner strength, people feel it. It creates a quiet dominance. You command respect, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Humility, this one is rare, and rare is attractive. When you're powerful but humble, strong but kind, capable but curious, people lean in, because you're not trying to impress, you're trying to connect. You can take a compliment without deflecting it. You can give credit without needing the spotlight. You're not competing, you're contributing, and in a world full of noise, ego, and posturing, humility hits like silence in a storm. Another one, purpose. Nothing draws people in like someone on a mission. Someone who wakes up with fire in their eyes and knows why they are here. That purpose, it bleeds into your energy. It shifts how you move, how you speak, how you show up. When you have direction, you stop chasing people, approval, and distractions. You attract by being aligned. People want to be close to power, and purpose is power. You know what's more powerful than someone walking into a room and announcing who they are? Someone who walks in and doesn't have to say anything. You just feel their energy. That's what real confidence is. It's not loud. It doesn't need to dominate the conversation. It's not attention. Hungry. Real confidence doesn't perform, it exists. It's in the way someone carries themselves, in how they hold eye contact without flinching, in how they stay calm when others get rattled. And let me tell you, that kind of presence, it doesn't come from luck or looks or some gift you were born with. It's built in the dark, when no one's clapping, when you're showing up and doing the hard things you said you would do. It's forged in the moments you could have folded, but didn't. When you keep promises to yourself, when you push through the discomfort, when you discipline your mind and emotions, something changes. You stop chasing approval, you stop second, guessing your worth. Because now you know what you're made of. That's why the most attractive people don't seek validation. They radiate self-assurance. They don't need to take up space. Their presence already does. They've mastered the art of being silent without being invisible. That's a whole different level of power, and once you build that within yourself, no one can take it from you. There's something about a person who walks into a space and doesn't just make it about them, but makes it about you. They pay attention not just to what you're saying, but to what you're not saying. They watch your tone, your eyes, your body language. That's emotional intelligence, and it's rare. It's also one of the most magnetic things you can develop. Because while most people are busy waiting for their turn to speak, emotionally intelligent people are actually listening. They're tuned in, they're present, they know when to lean in and when to back off. They know when you need advice and when you just need to be heard, and you feel that. You feel safe with them. You feel understood, and let's be real. How many people in your life make you feel understood? Not many. That's why those who can do it, who can give people that kind of presence, become unforgettable. They're not reacting from ego. They're responding from awareness, and it shows. Whether it's in a conversation with a stranger or in an argument with someone they love, they stay composed. They don't need to win. They aim to connect, and that alone, that makes them stand out in a world full of people trying to prove something. Attractiveness has nothing to do with chaos and everything to do with control, self-control. The people who leave a lasting impression are the ones who know how to discipline themselves. They don't let emotions drive the car. They don't make choices based on moods, impulses, or temporary feelings. They pause, they think, they act with intention, and that's where the real power comes from, because anyone can talk about goals. Anyone can get hyped up for a day or two, but the person who shows up daily, even when they're tired, even when no one's watching, that's the one who commands respect. That's the one people start to follow, because consistency is rare. It tells the world, I'm not here for attention, I'm here for results. Discipline isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about choosing what matters most over what you want now. It's doing the workout, keeping the promise, walking away from the drama, holding the line on your standards. You become attractive not because you're perfect, but because you're solid. People want to be around someone who's not easily shaken. Someone who leads themselves, and when you have that kind of control over your own life, people naturally believe you can handle theirs too. That's when influence begins. The most magnetic person in the room is never the one trying to prove they're better than you. It's the one who's strong enough to not need to. Humility is power under control. It's walking in your strength but not needing to flaunt it. It's knowing what you bring to the table without having to shove it in anyone's face. And that's what makes people lean in. Because let's be honest, most people are so desperate to be seen that they're constantly shouting for attention. But the people who are truly seen, they're the ones who don't beg for it. They earn it quietly, consistently, through how they treat others, how they carry themselves, and how they never make the room feel smaller so they can feel bigger. You want to know the truth. Humility takes more strength than arrogance ever will. Arrogance is easy. It's a mask, a shield. It's what insecure people wear to hide the fact that they are terrified of being found out. But humility, that's different. That's self-assurance without the need for approval. It's when you can hear someone else succeed and not feel threatened, when you can compliment someone without feeling smaller yourself, when you can say, I don't know, without it damaging your pride. That's rare, and rare is attractive. You see, humility doesn't mean you think less of yourself. It means you think about yourself less. You stop walking into rooms wondering, how can I impress them? And you start asking, how can I serve here? How can I make them feel valued? Because the moment you shift the focus off of you and onto the people around you, something changes. The energy changes. Suddenly, people aren't looking at you with envy or irritation. They're looking at you with respect. Because you made them feel like they mattered. And people will forget your words, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Think about the leaders, mentors, or even friends who have left the deepest mark on your life. Were they the loudest, the flashiest, the ones who constantly reminded you of how great they were? Probably not. They were the ones who had every right to brag, but didn't. They were the ones who made space for you to rise instead of dominating every conversation. That's humility, and it's powerful beyond measure. Now here's the thing most people get wrong. Humility isn't weakness. It's not about playing small. minimizing your achievements, or shrinking your voice. That's not humility. That's self-betrayal. Real humility is when you own your greatness, but you don't weaponize it. You know who you are, but you're not obsessed with reminding everyone else. You've done the work, you've earned your stripes, but you don't throw them in people's faces. And that's exactly why people are drawn to you. When you combine competence with humility, you become unstoppable, because now, not only are you someone worth listening to, but you're someone people want to listen to. You don't just lead with intelligence, you lead with humanity. You admit when you've made mistakes. You ask questions instead of pretending you have all the answers. You share what you know, but you also stay open to learning. In that posture, it disarms people, it draws them in, it makes you feel real. No one connects to perfect. They connect to honest, and humble people are honest enough to show both their light and their shadow. They're not trying to be above you. They're willing to stand beside you. That's what creates loyalty. That's what builds trust. You don't need to be worshipped. You don't need to dominate. You just need to be present, to care, to contribute. That's the kind of presence that turns heads without effort. And here's where humility becomes a secret weapon. In moments of conflict, when everyone else is too busy defending their ego, the humble person listens. They don't interrupt to be right. They pause to understand. They don't escalate to win. They de-escalate to connect. And because they're not attached to being the smartest in the room, they become the smartest in the room. Because they see what others miss, they're not triggered by insecurity. They're focused on clarity, and clarity is powerful. Attractiveness isn't just about beauty or charisma. It's about emotional maturity. And humility is a sign you've grown past the need to perform. It shows you've done the inner work, you've faced your insecurities, you've embraced your imperfections, and instead of hiding them, you've learned to lead with them. Because when you've accepted yourself, other people feel safe to be themselves around you too, and that kind of authenticity, it's magnetic. When someone carries both strength and humility, they become unforgettable. Because they don't just look good, they make you feel good. They don't just impress you, they inspire you. They remind you that you can be bold and kind, powerful and gentle, accomplished and teachable. That's the balance we're all searching for. That's the energy people can't get enough of. The world has plenty of loud, arrogant, self-serving personalities. What it needs more of, what people are starving for, is quiet confidence, humble leadership, and genuine human connection. The kind that doesn't need a spotlight to shine. The kind that doesn't step on others to rise. The kind that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it to you. I just need to be it. So if you want to stand out, if you want to be truly attractive, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime, build the kind of humility that speaks louder than any words ever could. Because when you do, people won't just admire you. They'll remember you, and more importantly, they'll trust you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it, quietly, consistently, and with grace. There's a fire behind the eyes of someone who knows exactly why they woke up this morning. You can see it before they speak. You can feel it when they walk into the room. That's purpose, and it's one of the most magnetic forces a person can carry. Because when you're aligned with something bigger than yourself, you stop drifting. You stop chasing attention, approval, distractions. You move different. You speak with direction. You walk with a kind of energy that doesn't need to scream at pulls. And people around you can't help but be drawn to it. Most people live their lives on autopilot, waking up, reacting, surviving. But the ones who stand out are the ones who decide. They've made a conscious choice to attach their time, energy, and effort to something that actually matters. And when you meet someone like that, it's impossible not to notice. They don't waste words. They don't waste time. They don't waste their life trying to fit in, because they've already chosen to stand out. Not with noise, not with drama, but with intention. Purpose is clarity. It's focus. It's knowing what to say yes to and just as powerfully what to say no to. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You stop entertaining relationships, conversations, or habits that don't align with who you're becoming. And that kind of alignment, it sharpens you. People around you can sense when you're not just existing, but living deliberately. You show up differently because you value where you're going, and when you value it, you protect it. You're not easily distracted, you're not easily swayed, and that consistency, that strength makes you incredibly attractive. Purpose also gives your presence a weight that can't be manufactured. And nothing shuts people down faster than arrogance. When you act like you've got it all figured out, when you dismiss, interrupt, or talk over someone, you're not being confident, you're being insecure. Curiosity is the strength to say, I might not know, but I'm here to learn, and that's what confidence actually looks like. That's what connection is built on, not power moves, not clever lines, just a genuine desire to understand someone else's world. When you become the kind of person who stays curious about people, about ideas, about life, you light up rooms not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most engaged. You make others feel seen. You ask the question no one else bothered to ask. You pause long enough to notice what others missed, and that presence, that attention, that care, that's what people remember. That's what makes you unforgettable. Attractive people have boundaries, clear, strong, unapologetic boundaries. They don't over-explain them, they don't ask for permission to set them, and they definitely don't feel guilty about enforcing them. And that's exactly what makes them so compelling, because when you see someone who protects their time, their peace, and their energy, you instantly recognize strength. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to bend to be accepted. That kind of self-respect is magnetic. It pulls people in, not because you're available to everyone, but because you're not. People often think being nice means being agreeable, being constantly accessible, saying yes to everything. That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. That's fear in disguise. Boundaries aren't rude. They're not cold. They're not about shutting people out. They're about honoring yourself so deeply that you refuse to be drained by what doesn't serve you. And when you live like that, people start to notice. They respect you more, not less. They listen when you speak. They value your time because you've shown them how. The most attractive people aren't the ones trying to be everything to everyone. They're the ones who have decided who they are, what they allow, and what they're no longer entertaining. They have standards, not walls. They don't need to argue or defend. They just act. They just decide. And their clarity is louder than any explanation. That's power, quiet power. There's something captivating about someone who knows how to say no, with grace, without drama, and without apology. No, I'm not available. No, I don't tolerate that behavior. No, I'm not going to be guilted into doing what doesn't align with my values. And the way they say it, calm, direct, grounded, it stops people in their tracks because it's rare. Because most people are so desperate to be liked, they'll compromise anything to keep the peace. But the ones who set the tone, who hold the line, who don't flinch when challenged, those are the ones we remember. Boundaries are not about being controlling. They're about being in control of your life, of your choices, of your mental and emotional space. And the people who respect themselves enough to draw those lines are the ones others trust to lead, to protect, to rise. You don't have to yell to hold a boundary. You don't have to explain it to everyone who doesn't understand it. You just have to live it, day in, day out, with consistency, with clarity, with conviction. Because the truth is, people treat you how you teach them to. If you allow disrespect, if you tolerate emotional freeloaders, if you always say yes when your body is screaming no, don't be surprised when you're taken for granted. But the moment you start standing up for your peace, your energy shifts. You start walking different, talking different, and suddenly the wrong people fall away. The right ones step forward, and that's not a coincidence. That's alignment. There's nothing more attractive than a person who is emotionally sovereign. Someone who doesn't let guilt manipulate them. someone who doesn't try to fix everyone, someone who understands that protecting their peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Because when you're depleted, when your energy is scattered, when you say yes to all the wrong things, you can't even show up for the things that matter. Boundaries protect your capacity to be great. So no, you don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be respected by the right ones, and that starts when you stop apologizing for having standards, when you stop explaining why your peace is non-negotiable, when you start acting like your life is valuable and treating your time like it's sacred, because it is, and the people who carry themselves that way, the ones who protect their own light, those are the people who shine without even trying. There's something instantly magnetic about someone who sees the good, not just when everything's going right, but especially when it isn't. Gratitude isn't some soft feel, good emotion. It's strength. It's discipline. It's the conscious decision to focus on what's working, not just what's broken. And when you carry that mindset, it changes the entire energy you walk with. People feel it. Because while others are caught in complaint mode, stuck in negativity, bitter about what they don't have, you become the one who brings light into the room, the one who sees beauty where others see nothing, the one who can spot growth in pain, clarity in failure, purpose in struggle, and that ability, that's rare, that's powerful, that's attractive. Gratitude shifts your posture, you speak softer, you look people in the eye longer, you carry less tension in your body, not because you're naive, but because you've made peace with what you can't control. You've trained yourself to stop dwelling in lack and start standing in enough. And that stability, emotional, mental, even physical, becomes a safe place for others. It draws people in, because deep down everyone is tired of the noise, tired of the judgment, tired of the cynicism. And when you show up with gratitude, it's like oxygen in a room that's been holding its breath. Let me be clear, grateful doesn't mean passive. It doesn't mean you settle. It doesn't mean you accept bad behavior or lower your standards. It means you don't let bitterness run your life. You don't allow anger to shape your identity. You don't give pain permission to poison everything good. You recognize what's wrong, but you choose to focus on what's right. That's strength, and it shows up in how you speak, how you lead, how you treat people who can do nothing for you. People who are grounded in gratitude don't need constant praise. They're not addicted to external validation. They don't walk around waiting to be recognized. They recognize others. They compliment. They notice the effort. They celebrate the small wins. And when they walk away, you feel better, not because they gave you something material, but because they gave you presence. Appreciation, respect, they remind you that there's still good in the world, even when things are hard, and that kind of person, you don't forget them, you gravitate toward them, because their energy heals. Gratitude also keeps you hungry in the right way. You're not chasing success from a place of I'm not enough. You're building from a place of I already have so much. I want to do more with it. That mindset keeps you grounded and focused. It helps you stay consistent because you're not just running from pain, you're running toward purpose. You don't feel entitled, you feel entrusted, and people can sense when someone isn't just working for themselves, but for something bigger. Even in adversity, gratitude keeps your spirit alive. It's what allows you to keep moving when the path gets dark, and when people see you stand tall through hardship without turning bitter, they pay attention. Because most people break when things get hard, but the ones who stay kind, who stay thankful, who still lift others up when they're the ones bleeding, those are the ones who radiate something different. That's strength, that's resilience, that's real beauty. You don't have to fake positivity. You don't have to plaster a smile on your face when life hits hard, but you do have to decide who you want to be in the middle of it. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything's perfect. it's about recognizing what's still good, even when things fall apart. And when you live from that place, your energy changes. You don't chase approval. You don't crave attention. You already feel full, and that fullness, that presence, that quiet joy that can't be taken by circumstances, that's what makes people stop and say, "What is it about them?" And you won't need to say a word. They'll feel it. Authenticity beats perfection every single time. You want to know why some people are unforgettable. It's not because they have flawless skin or the perfect words or a polished image. It's because they're real. They're not hiding behind a mask. They're not performing. They're not curating some version of themselves they think the world wants to see. They show up as themselves, flaws, truth, edge, softness, all of it. And that rawness, that kind of honesty, that's what people crave in a world full of filters, fakeness, and performance. Most people spend so much time trying to be what they think others want them to be. They change how they speak depending on who's listening. They water down their truth so they don't offend. They mold themselves to fit in, to be liked, to avoid rejection. But the truth is, you lose power the moment you abandon your identity. Because when you don't know who you are, or when you're constantly shifting to please everyone, you disappear. You become invisible, and there's nothing attractive about someone who doesn't even see themselves. The people who captivate without trying are the ones who own who they are, even when it's not easy, even when it's not popular. They speak their truth with courage, not cruelty. They're not loud about it, but they're clear. And that clarity makes them magnetic because they're not afraid to take up space, not with arrogance, but with authenticity. They've accepted the parts of themselves others are still trying to hide. And when you meet someone like that, you can't help but breathe easier around them. Because they're not performing for your approval. They're just being, and it gives you permission to do the same. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be honest, honest about your story, honest about your struggles, honest about what you want, what you believe, what you'll tolerate, and what you won't. That kind of transparency is a superpower. It cuts through noise. It creates connection. People don't bond over perfection. They bond over realness. The strength to say, "This is me. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just showing up fully and unapologetically." Authenticity also builds trust. When you're consistent in who you are, people don't have to guess which version of you they're getting today. You're steady, you're grounded, you're real. That doesn't mean you never grow. It means you evolve without losing your center. And that self-awareness, that rootedness, it creates safety. People are drawn to you not because you're flawless, but because you're honest about your flaws. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're not afraid to say, "I'm still figuring it out." And here's the secret. Authenticity doesn't mean spilling everything to everyone. It doesn't mean oversharing. It means being aligned. Who you are inside matches how you show up outside. Your values match your behavior. Your words match your actions. That alignment is rare, and people feel it. Even if they can't name it, they recognize it. And they respect it because they know how hard it is to live like that in a world constantly pressuring you to be something else. When you're authentic, you stop chasing validation. You don't need applause to feel worthy. You're not performing, so you don't burn out trying to keep up an act. You're free, and that freedom, that comfort in your own skin, that's what makes people want to be around you. Because it's not just that you make them feel something, it's that you make them feel like they can be themselves too. In the end, it's not your image that people fall in love with. It's your essence. It's the way you make them feel safe to take off their own mask, and that only happens when you've taken off yours. You want to be unforgettable? Drop the act, get honest, own your truth, let people meet the real you. That's where your power is. That's where your presence comes from, not from perfection, but from showing up, fully seen and still standing. You could be in a room full of louder, flashier people, and still somehow you are the one everyone watches, because you're not scattered, you're centered, you're not trying to be everything for everyone, you're clear on who you are and what you're here to do. You bring focus into chaotic rooms, you bring direction into uncertain spaces. People want to be around that, not because it's comfortable, but because it's rare. And here's the thing, your purpose doesn't have to be some grand, world-changing mission. It just has to be real, it has to mean something to you. It could be building something, healing something, protecting something, teaching something. What matters is that it's yours, and once you've locked into that, it doesn't just fuel your motivation, it sharpens your identity. You don't second, guess your value, you don't beg for recognition, because you know what you bring. You know where you're headed, and that knowing, that's what people feel even if they can't name it. There's an unspoken power in a person who's too focused on their purpose to be pulled into pettiness. While others get caught up in comparison, gossip, and chaos, you stay in your lane, you protect your energy. You use your time wisely, and over time that builds something stronger than charm, stronger than hype. It builds respect, because people can fake talent, they can fake charisma, but they can't fake direction. They can't fake that internal fire, that steady drive, that unshakable why, and when your life starts reflecting your values, when your actions align with your beliefs, people don't just admire you, they start trusting you. They start looking to you, because you're not guessing, you're not flailing, you're anchored, and when someone's anchored in purpose, they move through life with a quiet force that commands attention. Not because they asked for it, but because they earned it through consistency, clarity, and conviction. So if you're wondering why certain people are so effortlessly attractive, why others seem to gravitate toward them, look deeper. It's not the clothes, it's not the smile, it's the purpose, it's the fire you can't fake, the drive you can't imitate. That's the kind of energy that changes rooms, shifts conversations, and turns average moments into something unforgettable. That's the kind of energy that makes people not only notice you, but remember you. There's something incredibly powerful about a person who keeps their word, especially when no one's watching. That's what integrity looks like. It's not about perfection. It's not about doing the right thing when it's easy. It's about doing the right thing when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when it costs you something. And let me tell you, in a world where people make promises they don't intend to keep, where loyalty folds the second it's tested, integrity is magnetic. You can feel it in someone who stands on truth. There's a weight to their presence, a calmness in their actions, a certainty in the way they move. Integrity doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't operate based on who's around. It's internal, it's character. It's the quiet decision you make when nobody will find out, but you will know, and that's enough. And when you carry that standard within yourself, people notice, even if they don't say it. You become the one others trust without hesitation, the one they call when things fall apart, because your consistency speaks louder than any words ever could. You don't have to announce that you're reliable. You show it every single time you follow through, every time you admit a mistake, every time you choose honesty over convenience. You build a reputation, and here's the truth, reputation is currency. Not the kind you spend, the kind that spends for you. It opens doors, it earns respect, it brings the right people into your life, and keeps the wrong ones out, because when you live with integrity, you attract people who do the same. And you repel anything fake, shallow, or weak. People often think attractiveness is about charisma. No, charisma can be faked. Integrity cannot. Charisma might get attention, but integrity earns respect. It builds trust, and trust is the foundation of every powerful connection you'll ever have. Without it, you're just performing. With it, you're leading. And here's where most people fall off. They think no one's watching, so it doesn't matter. But it always matters, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. You break your own promises enough times, and you stop believing in yourself. That's why integrity isn't just about how others see you. It's about how you see you. When you live in alignment with your values, when your actions back your words, you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, because you're clear. Clear people are powerful people. Integrity also creates freedom. Because when your story matches your behavior, you don't have to remember what you said, who you pretended to be, or what lie you told last week. You walk into every room as you, no act, no mask, no fear of being found out. And that kind of peace, it's rare, and rare is attractive. You want to walk into a room and shift the energy. Be the one person everyone knows they can count on. Be the one who keeps the secret, shows up early, stays late, tells the truth, and owns their mistakes. Not because it makes you look good, but because it makes you whole. The most beautiful people are the ones who live in full alignment, who don't just talk about standards, they live them, who don't change depending on who's in front of them, but stay rooted in who they are. And that consistency, that reliability, that realness, that's what people crave, not flash, not drama, stability, truth, integrity. Because when you have that, you don't just stand out, you stand tall. And there's no filter, no trend, no shortcut that can compete with that. Curiosity is one of the most underrated traits when it comes to being truly attractive. Most people walk into conversations thinking, what can I say to impress them? But the ones who leave an impact are the ones who walk in thinking, what can I learn from this person? That shift, trite, there is everything. Because when you're genuinely curious, you listen differently. You ask deeper questions. You don't just skim the surface. You dig, and people feel that. They feel when you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. They feel when you're actually paying attention. And in a world full of people talking over each other, someone who listens stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. The people who draw others in aren't the ones who try to be the most interesting. They're the ones who are interested. Because curiosity isn't just about asking questions. It's about being present enough to want to understand someone beyond the obvious. It's about putting down your assumptions and saying, teach me something I don't know. Show me what I've missed, and that openness, that hunger to learn, it's magnetic because it doesn't just invite connection, it creates it. Curious people also don't need to dominate the spotlight. They're comfortable letting others shine. They understand that attraction isn't a competition, it's a connection, so they make space for people to share. They lean in, they say, tell me more, and just like that, they build trust, not with charm, not with performance, but with presence. With respect, with an energy that says, you matter here, and the best part, when you lead with curiosity, you never stop growing. You're constantly expanding, constantly evolving, because you're not locked into proving you know everything. You're focused on discovering what you don't. That kind of mindset keeps you sharp, it keeps you young, it keeps you engaged. You become the person who's always learning, always asking, always stretching, and that energy, people want to be around it. It's alive, it's dynamic, it's real. The opposite of curiosity is arrogance. So when you really look at it, attractiveness isn't about beauty, it's about presence. It's about the quiet strength you carry, the way you treat people when no one's watching, the discipline behind your choices, the energy you walk into the room with. It's your self-respect, it's your consistency, it's your ability to hold eye contact and mean every word you say. It's not about being liked by everyone. It's about being respected by the right people because you showed up as your true self and didn't flinch. These 9 habits aren't surface-level fixes. They're transformations from the inside out. They make you someone who commands attention not with noise but with depth. Someone who stands out because you're solid when others are shaky. Someone who attracts not just admiration, but loyalty, trust, and genuine connection. Be the person who walks into the room and doesn't need to prove a thing. You're not here to impress, you're here to impact. And when that becomes your standard, You don't just become more attractive, you become unforgettable.